The sun on the alien planet of Zephyra was red and cruel. It burned everything it touched. The ground was dry. The wind was full of dust. Villages were broken and quiet. Once this place had life. Now it only had pain and silence. Jack, a human explorer, walked slowly through the ruins. He wore a dusty coat and dark glasses. His boots crunched on the cracked road. His eyes moved left and right, always watching. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but what he saw now made him stop. A group of tall, gray-skinned aliens stood in a circle. They laughed loudly. In the center of the circle, a small alien woman knelt in the dirt. Her skin was pale and her clothes were torn. Her 2 children, thin and weak, clung to her legs. The woman shook. Her voice cracked as she begged. "Please," she said, looking up at the alien man standing before her, "take me as your wife. I will serve you. Just please feed my children." The man only spat near her feet and turned away. The others laughed even louder. One threw a small stone at her. It hit her arm, but she didn't react. She stayed on her knees, head bowed. Jack's fists clenched. He walked forward. The laughter stopped. The aliens turned to look at him. A human here was rare. Some of them stepped back. Jack was silent. He stepped closer to the woman. The alien woman looked up. Her eyes were wide and full of tears. Her lips trembled. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then, in a soft, broken voice, she whispered, "Will you take me instead?" "Please?" Jack didn't speak. The woman looked down again. Ashamed, one of the aliens growled, "This is none of your business, human." Jack looked at him. "Beating a starving widow is your business?" Another alien stepped forward, taller than the rest. "She is useless. Her mate is dead. She begged us all. We said no. She is not even worth a meal." "She has children," Jack said coldly. "They are as useless as her." Jack walked past them and stood beside the woman. He looked down at her. "What's your name?" The woman blinked. "Neri." He looked at the children. One was coughing. The other held a small cloth doll with one eye missing. Jack reached into his bag and pulled out a water bottle. He handed it to her. She hesitated, then took it with shaking hands. She gave it to her children first. They drank greedily. One of the aliens sneered, "Go ahead, human. Waste your kindness." "You'll regret it." Jack said nothing. He took out some protein bars and handed them to Neri. She looked at him, confused. "Eat," he said. As she took a bite, tears rolled down her cheeks. Jack turned back to the aliens. "You should be ashamed." They just laughed again and walked away, one by one. Now it was quiet. Neri tried to stand, but she was weak. Jack helped her up. "Why were they laughing at you?" he asked. "I asked them to marry me," she said. Eyes low. Jack raised an eyebrow. "Why? I have no home. No food, no protection. A widow is nothing in my people's eyes," I thought. "If someone took me, they would feed my children, keep us safe." Jack looked at her for a long time. "You don't belong with people like them." She gave a bitter smile. "There are no good people left." Jack placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then maybe I'm the last one." She looked at him with surprise. He turned and started walking. "Come with me." She followed slowly, holding her children close. They walked toward an old shelter at the edge of the village. The sun was falling, turning the sky dark red. Inside, the building was empty, but the roof held strong. Jack gave the children a blanket and helped Neri sit down. He set up a small fire using a heat stick. The children sat close to the flames. "Why did you help us?" Neri asked quietly. Jack looked at the fire. "Because someone had to." Neri stared at him. Her eyes were tired, but a small light returned to them. As night fell, the wind outside howled through the cracks. Then, just as Jack was about to close his eyes, he heard a faint sound, a low clicking noise. He stood up quickly. someone or something, was watching them in the dark. Asterisk the sound came again. Click. Click. Jack stood in front of the shelter door, holding a small stun blade. His breath was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Neri sat by the fire, clutching her children. Her hands trembled. Suddenly, from the darkness outside, a small creature darted across the doorway. Its eyes glowed for a second before it vanished. Just a scavenger, Jack said, lowering his weapon. But Neri didn't relax. Her voice was soft. They come at night, not for food, but for those who can't fight back. Jack nodded. Then we'll give them nothing. He reinforced the door with metal pipes, then sat beside the fire. For a while there was only the crackling sound of flames and the soft breathing of her children as they slept. Then Jack spoke. Tell me why they all hate you. Neri looked away. You won't like the truth. Try me. She pulled her worn shawl tighter and stared into the fire. The flames danced in her silver eyes. I wasn't always a beggar, she said slowly. Once, I was married to a warrior. His name was Varen. He was brave, respected, proud. We had a home, a life. Then the war came. Jack stayed silent. I continued, her voice shaking. My husband went to fight. He said it was for our future. But he didn't come back. She took a long breath. They brought back his body. And a lie, Jack frowned. What kind of lie? They said he died protecting his squad, Neri whispered. But I found a data chip hidden in his old boot. It told a different story. Jack leaned forward. What did it say? That he discovered something he shouldn't have. A secret weapon, human-made. Our leaders wanted to sell it. He refused. He tried to stop them. They killed him to keep it quiet. Jack's jaw tightened. They said I was mad. A traitor's wife. They burned our house, took everything. No one would touch me after that. Even my own sister threw me out. All I had left were my children. She looked down at them. They slept curled up together like small animals, skin and bone. I begged. I worked. I starved. I sold the only thing I had left, my name, my pride, my body, just to buy them food. Jack didn't speak for a moment. Then he asked, Why didn't you run away? She gave a sad smile. Where would I run? The stars don't shine for widows like me. There was silence again. Jack stood and walked to the back of the shelter. He opened his bag and pulled out a small military device. It was old, but powerful. You said you still have the data chip? Neri nodded. She pulled out a small metal piece from under her belt and gave it to him. Jack inserted it into the The screen flickered, then showed a video, a hologram. Of a tired alien soldier appeared her husband Varen. His voice was low and serious. If anyone finds this, I'm already dead. The human weapon must not fall into the wrong hands. I've hidden the location in this chip. They'll come. For my family next. Jack stared at the screen. This wasn't just a broken widow. She was sitting on a galaxy-sized secret. He looked at her. Do you know what this means? She nodded slowly. It means they'll kill me and my children if they find us. Jack stood up. Then we don't let them find us. Just then, the fire flickered. A shadow moved across the window. Neri's eyes widened. They're already here. The glass shattered. Jack threw himself over the children. Just as a metal rod smashed through the window, Neri screamed. Sparks flew as the firelight flickered and died. Out! Jack shouted. He grabbed the two kids, one under each arm, and pushed Neri toward the back exit. But before they could reach the door, a deep voice growled from the shadows. You thought you could protect her, human. 3 tall alien figures stepped inside. Their eyes glowed faint red. Each held a weapon. One had a shock whip, another a rusted blade, the third a blaster carved with gang markings. Neri froze. Her lips trembled. It's them, the bone rats. Jack didn't hesitate. He handed the kids to Neri and stepped forward. Stun blade in hand. She's under my protection. The leader of the gang laughed. She belongs to no one. Especially not to a soft human. Jack didn't wait. He charged. The fight was fast, brutal. One alien came at Jack with the whip. He dodged and slashed back, slicing the weapon's cord in half. Another swung the blade. Jack caught it on his forearm guard, then punched the alien across the face with a metal fist. But the third, the one with the blaster, aimed directly at Neri. She held her children close. Helpless. Bang. The blaster misfired. Jack tackled the alien. Before he could fix it and slammed the stun blade into his chest, the gang fled, bleeding and cursing, dragging their wounded out the door. Breathing hard, Jack turned to Neri. She was frozen in fear, staring at him like he wasn't real. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. You fought for me." Jack helped her to her feet. "You shouldn't have to fight alone." They found a new hiding place that night, a storage cave hidden behind an old mining trail. Jack lit a small lamp. The children huddled close to Neri. She looked at him. "Why would you do that? You don't know me." "I know enough," he replied. "You saw me on my knees, begging strangers to take me," she said bitterly. "Did you think I was worth saving then?" Jack looked her straight in the eyes. "Yes, because no one deserves to be treated like property, especially someone who still fights to protect her children." Her lip trembled. She turned away. A silence settled between them. Then she spoke again, voice soft. "Do you want to know the worst part?" Jack looked at her. "What?" "I did sell myself once. I gave myself to a trader, just for one bag of food. He used me for 2 days and left me bleeding. I told myself I did it for my children, but a part of me died." Jack clenched his fists. "You don't need to explain yourself to me," he said. "But I'll tell you this, no one touches you again unless you let them." Her eyes filled with tears. "Why are you saying this?" He leaned back and said calmly, "Because from now on, you're under my protection. That means something where I come from." She stared at him, confused. "And what do you want in return?" Jack smiled faintly. "Nothing, just sleep. You need it." Neri lay down beside her children, still watching him with unsure eyes. Jack sat near the entrance, holding his weapon. His eyes scanned the dark tunnel ahead, but inside his mind, something had already changed. He didn't just see a widow anymore. He saw a survivor, a mother, a fighter, someone who still had a spark buried deep under pain, and someone worth risking his life for. But he also knew this. The gang would return, and next time, they wouldn't come alone. The rain came suddenly. Cold drops fell from the sky, of Zephyra like sharp needles, waking Jack from a restless sleep. The cave roof dripped in places, and the small fire he had made the night before was now nothing but wet ash. But what truly caught his eye was Neri. She wasn't lying beside her children anymore. She was outside the cave, soaked in rain, carrying a broken piece of metal pipe, using it to dig into the hard dirt. Jack stood, confused. "Neri, what are you doing?" She didn't stop digging. "Food," she whispered. "There are rootworms under the soil. My husband taught me. If I don't bring them up, we'll starve." Jack walked over and gently took the pipe from her shaking hands. "You're soaking wet. You'll get sick." She looked up at him, eyes wild and tired. "I already am sick, Jack. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of watching my children fade like ghosts. I won't sit in a cave while you do everything." There was silence between them. Then Jack gave her back the pipe. "All right, show me where to dig." Together, they dug in the wet soil, fingers freezing, knees in the mud. After 2 hours, they had a small pile of thick white worms, ugly but full of protein. Back inside the cave, Neri roasted them over the fire Jack rebuilt. The children watched with wide eyes as she handed them the food. They ate quietly, for the first time in days. There was no crying. Jack smiled. That was smart. You saved the day. But Neri didn't smile. She only said, I used to be stronger. Before they took everything from me. Jack looked at her seriously. You are strong. No one else would have kept going this long. Neri finally met his eyes. You don't know me. Then tell me, he said softly. She leaned back, brushing wet hair from her face. Before the war, I was a builder. I worked on machines, power cores, and solar shields. I wasn't just a wife or a mother. I was useful. She paused then. Whispered, but after Varen died, they called me cursed. Sighed, I brought death. The council banned me from working. I had to throw away every part of who I was. Jack's voice was gentle. You're still her, that builder. She's still inside you. Neri shook her head. No, that Neri died with him. But Jack reached into his pack and pulled out a broken human drone. Then let's find out. He handed it to her. This thing's dead. You fix it. And I believe the old Neri is truly gone. She stared at the drone for a long time. Then quietly, without a word, she took a small sharp stone, opened the casing, and began to work. Hours passed. The children slept beside the warm fire. Jack dozed against the cave wall. Rain still whispered outside. A soft beep woke him. He opened his eyes and saw a small light blinking on the drone.nir. I looked up. Her hands were dirty, her fingers bleeding slightly, but her expression, it was the first real smile he'd seen from her. It flies again, she said, holding the small drone like it was a newborn. Jack laughed. Guess I was wrong. She blinked. About what? That Neri is dead. She looked down, almost embarrassed. I don't know what to say. She whispered. Then don't say anything, Jack replied. Just stay alive. That's more than enough. Suddenly the drone blinked red. Neri froze. That's not normal. The drone let out a warning beep. Jack stood. What's it seeing? The drone projected a small hologram, 3 life forms, moving, coming fast. Not human. Jack cursed. They found us again. Neri held her children close. But this time, Jack turned to her and said, we don't run. Neri stood too. Her voice was calm, steady. Then we fight. Jack stared at her in surprise. This wasn't the broken widow he found in the dirt. This was someone reborn, and this time, she wouldn't beg. She would stand. The cave shook. Dust fell from the ceiling as a distant explosion rumbled through the mountain. Jack and Neri locked eyes. They're not just looking for us anymore, Jack said. They're trying to bury us alive. Neri held her children close. The little one cried softly, but Neri's arms were strong, steady. She wasn't the same woman who once begged strangers in the dirt. Jack opened the drone's control panel. It was still blinking red, tracking heat signatures. Enemy signals were moving through the tunnels below them. They're under us now, he said, digging up whatever they're looking for. Neri froze. She whispered, they're not after me, not only me, they're after what Varen hid. Jack turned sharply. What do you mean? She pulled the small data chip from her belt again. Varen didn't just leave a message. He left coordinates, buried under this mountain. Jack inserted the chip into the drone. A map blinked open, a hidden cave entrance deep below them. A blinking blue light marked the spot. Neri looked at it and said softly, that's where he died. Jack's voice was low. Then it's time we learn the truth. An hour later, they stood at the edge of a narrow shaft inside the mountain. The air was thick, the path dangerous. Jack held a lamp. Neri followed closely, carrying one child. The older child held Jack's hand. They moved slowly, deeper and deeper, until they found it, a metal door. Old human made. It was scratched with claw marks and blood. Jack forced it open with a hiss. Inside was a small room, full of dust, crates, and darkness. In the center was a metal pod, partly broken. Jack walked to it and wiped the glass clean. Inside lay the skeletal remains of a soldier. In alien armor. Varen. Neri dropped to her knees. Her hand reached toward the glass, trembling. "I never got to say goodbye," she whispered. Jack looked down and saw something resting on Varen's chest. A black cube. Glowing faintly, he picked it up. The cube came to life, projecting a final message from Varen. "If you're watching this, it means I failed. I tried to stop them, but they betrayed me, the Council. They sold the weapon to off-world slavers. It's not just human-made, it's alive. It thinks, and it obeys no one. It's buried under this mountain, locked in a pot of its own." Neri's eyes widened. He tried to protect everyone. Jack continued to listen. "I didn't die in battle, I was executed. For knowing the truth. I made the Council promise not to harm my wife and children. But I know their kind. They will not keep their word." The cube blinked off. Neri covered her mouth with her hand. Silent tears ran down her cheeks. Gently put a hand on her shoulder. "We have to destroy what's left," he said. "This weapon, whatever it is, can't fall into anyone's hands." But before Neri could speak, the sound of metal hitting stone echoed down the tunnel behind them. Jack grabbed his weapon. "They're here." As footsteps echoed closer, Neri stood up, her face pale but strong. She looked at Varen's body and whispered, "Forgive me, but I won't die here, not like you." She grabbed the cube and slipped it into her cloak. Jack held the children and motioned for her to move fast. They ran down a side tunnel just as a group of soldiers entered the chamber. Their armor was marked with the symbol of the High Council. The leader snarled, "Find the human. Find the widow. Leave no one alive." Back in the narrow tunnel, Neri stopped suddenly. "What is it?" Jack asked. She pointed to a sealed door up ahead. "That's it. That's where the weapon is." Jack hesitated. "If we open it, we risk everything." She looked back at him. "And if we don't, they will." Jack stared at her for a moment, then nodded. He pulled the cube from her cloak and pressed it against the door. The locks clicked. The door opened. And what they saw inside made both of them take a step back. It wasn't a machine. It was a living creature. Sleeping. Breathing. Human. But not. Its eyes opened slowly, and it smiled. Its eyes opened. Not fast, not sudden, slow, calm, calculating. As if it had been watching them long before it woke. The human-like creature inside the pod looked no older than a child. Pale skin, silver veins glowing faintly under its surface. Its eyes were completely black, no whites, no soul. Nir. I pulled her children behind her. Jack raised his weapon. "What is that?" The creature smiled. "I am what your kind left behind. A mistake, a warning, a secret buried by cowards." Its voice echoed inside their heads, clear, cold, and far too intelligent. Neri whispered, "It's the weapon." The creature stepped out of the pod without effort. It floated above the floor, weightless. Jack aimed. "Stay back." But the creature only looked at him. "You can't kill me. You're too late. They're already coming. I've called them." Neri gasped. "What do you mean, called who?" The creature pointed up, through the rock ceiling. And then they heard it, a high-pitched humming, engines falling from the sky. Jack checked the drone. 3 ships, unmarked, slaver vessels. "They're here for me," the creature said softly, "and they'll kill everyone to claim me." Outside the mountain, black ships dropped like daggers through the clouds. Inside the tunnels, the Council soldiers were already dead. Their bodies crushed, burned, ripped apart by forces they couldn't see. Something had awakened, and it was angry. Back in the chamber, Jack made a choice. He turned to Neri. "We can't stop it, but maybe we can bury it again." She looked at her children, then nodded. "Whatever it takes." Jack pulled the cube from his belt. The creature tilted its head. "That's my key. And I'm locking the door," Jack said. He threw the cube toward the pod. Before the creature could move, Neri tackled it, grabbing its arms with surprising strength. It screamed, voice sharp like metal on glass. "Jack!" Now Jack slammed his fist into the control panel. Sparks flew. The cube glowed bright red, then exploded with light. The chamber began to shake violently. The door behind them slammed shut. The mountain was collapsing. They ran. Rocks fell. The path cracked open. Jack carried one child, Neri the other. They jumped across gaps, dodged falling stones. Fire followed behind them as the creature screamed, trapped, locked inside its metal grave once more. Finally, they burst out of the tunnel into the rain, gasping, coughing, shaking. Behind them, the mountain roared, and then crumbled into dust. The weapon was buried again, hopefully, for good. But Jack didn't stand. He fell to one knee, bleeding from his side. Neri rushed to him. "Jack, stay with me." He smiled weakly. "Looks worse than it is." "It's deep," she said, pressing her hands to the wound. "I've had worse," he joked, wincing. "You can't die," she whispered. "Not now, not after everything." The children clung to her. One of them cried softly. Jack looked at them and whispered, "Don't cry. Hey, your mom's a warrior." Neri held his face. "You saved us." Jack's voice was faint now. "No, you saved me." And then he passed out. Night fell. They built a fire, wrapped Jack in blankets. He slept, weak but alive. Neri sat beside him, staring into the flames. Her hands were cut, her body sore, but her heart was burning. She wasn't just a widow anymore. She was something more. Something new, a protector. And she knew one thing for sure. If Jack lived, she would never let him go. Jack awoke to warm sunlight on his face. The first thing he saw was the sky blue, soft and calm. No smoke, no rain, no falling ships, just peace. The second thing he saw was her. Neri sat beside him with her back straight, her head high. Not like a beggar, not like a widow. She looked like a leader, a mother, a warrior. She smiled as his eyes fluttered open. "You're alive," she whispered, relief breaking in her voice. Jack tried to speak, but his throat was dry. She helped him sit up and handed him a cup of warm liquid. "Roots and herbs. It'll help the pain." He drank slowly, watching her. "You saved me," he said. She looked away. "You saved us first, many times." Jack reached for her hand. "No, you did this. I just followed." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Neri spoke, quietly. "They think I'm dead, Jack. The council, the slavers. That mountain was their secret, and we buried it." Jack nodded. "What now?" "I don't want to hide anymore," she said. "I want my children to grow under the sun, not in the shadows." Jack looked into her eyes. "Then let's build something, together." That night, they walked into a human outpost near the northern ridge. The guards raised their weapons. When they saw the alien woman and her children, Jack raised his hand. "She's with me. They're my family now." The soldiers hesitated. One of them looked at Neri. "Are you property?" Neri stepped forward, her voice steady. "No, I'm his wife, and he is mine." The soldier raised an eyebrow. "You sure, human?" Jack smiled. "I've never been more sure." Weeks passed. Jack healed. Slowly, Neri began to work. Again fixing machines, teaching other aliens in the refugee camp how to repair power tools, how to plant food in bad soil. She became known not as the widow, but as Lady Neri of the Flame. For the night she carried fire through falling stone to protect her children and a wounded human. The children laughed now. They ran through the fields, barefoot and free. One day, Jack stood by a small home they had built together, watching the sunset. Neri walked up beside him. He said quietly, "I have nothing to offer you." No riches, no title, just my name, she smiled. Then give it to me. Jack blinked. What? She touched his hand. Give me your name, not because I'm begging, not because I'm broken, but because I want to carry it proudly. Jack nodded, voice soft. Then take it, and take me with it. They held hands as the wind moved through the trees, not no rings, no crowd, just two souls, one human. One alien choosing each other, not for survival, not for safety, but for love. 1 year. Later, the child who once held a broken doll now held a book. The one who once cried from hunger now ran strong and tall and neary. She stood at the head of a classroom teaching humans and aliens together, side by side. Her past was still there. The pain. The lost, but now it was a seed that had grown into something beautiful. And Jack? He stood by her side, not as her savior, but as her partner, as the man who said yes when the world had only said no. They saw a poor widow with nothing left. But the human saw what no one else did. A heart strong enough to build a family out of ashes.